All right, so as I tape this, Black Widow apparently has made $80 million at the box office, which is a record in post-pandemic era. So you gotta keep that in mind too. But nevertheless, pretty damn good. And of course, the Marvel brand remains strong despite some pretty bad, lackluster D plus shows. But that's all you've had since we've lost a year. So it took a while to get this film out, but there it is. So it's understandable that it would do well, and for such a gap in people wanting it back. But the other thing is they're saying they made 60 million on D plus. The box office, I'll give them that, but deep. I mean, maybe it's true, but I mean, good lord, do I feel sorry. It was not worth the $30 to do that. Yeah, the movie had a certain plot structure that could have worked rather well, but it's dragged down a lot by rinse, lather, repeat templates of Marvel movies. The repetition is it can be death to a story, and of course there was a woke message in it, and I think that always ends up making things stumble. There's some other aspects they could have done that would have been really cool because they admitted they were working on having a cameo in there from one of the other Avengers in it, and especially at the ending, I think that would have been rather significant and pretty good. They could have had Chris Evans come in and do a scene, and it would make sense because it fits in with what Civil War shows you at the end and all that. And when you get into Infinity War, and they come rescuing Wanda and Vision and all that. But no, they didn't want to have. No, she doesn't need the boys. Well, she needed a man to get supplies and stuff in the movie. So yeah, well, whatever. But see, that's where the messaging, the woke cult, gets in the way of just basic logical setups and plot. Plus, I think they should have done some background with her and Hawkeye. And in a lot of ways, I think it would have been much better if for the time, for most of the film, it would have seemed that her sister was the villain and she ends up saving her sister rather than she magically gets cured of her brainwashing at the beginning of the movie by some woman who gets killed off that we never know about afterwards, who, for all intents and purposes, is the real hero of the movie. Since we didn't get Taskmaster, just leave Taskmaster out of it. And that might have been a more interesting a plot point there, where she saves her sister and all that, and giving even more credibility to the idea, or more narrative backup to her sister becoming the new Black Widow, which appears to be the case in the teaser at the end. So anyway, but Marvel brand is strong, and a brand is strong until they start messing up. And I think some of this can do that. Now, thinking on it, I guess you could say it's not as bad as the D plus shows, but the elements are there. There's a lot of action in blasty blasty, as they call it at MCU. And maybe that's enough for people to like it. And Johansson is very popular, and so she's basically going to save the film, and so maybe that's the deal. And so Marvel will be on solid ground. But next up is Shang-Chi and the Eternals, and Shang-Chi's got a shot, I think, but the Eternals, no. So anyway, now to the point of this video, an article that's several days old, but points to all of this, because this is how they marketed a Black Widow. They didn't market it as a Bond film, which it kind of is, which would have been a cool thing. There's even her watching Moonraker in the movie, which is, kind of a nod to what it is, and just the action adventure and superhero antics and stuff like that. They went on and on and on and on and on about the patriarchy and the film, and that is the point. The better point of the film is family and stuff like that, which is there, and that's very good, and it gives her inspiration to decide to go back into the fight to recover the Avengers and all that, and that's all well and good. But the overall theme is, of course, the patriarchy, and it brainwashes women into being subservient to it. Yeah, Yeah, and apparently you need a magic potion to get women to see clearly, which, well, if you think about it, is quite insulting to women. But who am I kidding? They don't think in the MCU. So anyway, he's Matt McCloy here at Cosmic Book News, referring to an interview with Victoria Alonso, MCU producer, doing a brief little interview with Variety, and they're talking about the LGBTQ IA plus. Matt, you can't just leave it LGBTQ. No, because if you just say LGBTQ, you're an LGBTQIA plus phobe. Yeah, them's the rules. So anyway, take some points here where they're talking about, we got to have representation, which is, of course, the identity politics agenda of this type of woke nonsense. And it's all superficial. It doesn't really amount to a whole lot. Case in point, Captain Marvel. They wanted to make a big deal about feminism and stuff. And along the way, they forgot that the actual first female Captain Marvel was a black woman. Oh, crap! So then they got to put in, she's a little girl now, and Carol and her mother were really close, And so that sets up for her. So I guess perhaps Monica Rambeau will get to be Captain Marvel at the end of Marvels, But the reason this sort of stuff happens is because they didn't know who the hell Monica Rambeau was. That's what it was, okay? They don't really care about the Marvel comics, and it constantly shows. So here, she says, it takes time. So we have so many stories that we can tell. We will empower those that are. We're not changing anything. And this is in reference to Loki being bisexual. And they're so proud of this moment that's about, 2 seconds long in the show. And then he promptly falls in love with a woman. Granted, it's a woman that's basically his female self. Because he's a narcissist, But nevertheless, he doesn't fall in love with any of the other Lokis that are all men, doesn't even he doesn't even have any interest in the alligator. No, he's only interested in a woman. How about that, huh? So again, it's just superficial tossing around, and they do an article with Variety. Say, aren't we great? And Variety says, yes, you are. So there's a lot of that coming up. Yeah, I bet. And I think we'll be representative of the world today. We're not going to nail it in the first movie or the second movie or third movie. Well, geez, when are you? Or the first show or second show? Well, maybe the third show, because that was Loki's, wasn't it? Yeah. But we will do our best to consistently try to represent. So that's what they're doing. And then she says, I have to be honest with you. It's not a big deal. It is what it is when it suits the character. We're not going to do it because it's politically correct or incorrect. It is what it is. This is an absolute lie. Like I said, the proof is in the pudding. It's right there that it's all superficial nonsense. Again, we're so proud of the 2 seconds of where he says he messed around with some men. Wow. What is also hilarious is that Alonso claims that all these characters in the MCU are following the comic. Yeah, Taskmaster, huh? Is that following the comics? Jeez. Which is a laughable statement because the recent changes came to the comics with the failed Marvel Now comics politically correct brand that happened only within the last few years, which is, of course, was most likely done to sync the comics up with the movies. Well, of course, at the time they were doing it, the movies weren't like that. So anyway, so just as we see Alonso is stating, execs can point to the comics and say, see, the character's been in the comics way long now. Don't forget, we follow our comics, she says. We try to follow them quite to the T. So in the comics, this is who he was. And of course, she's lying. And he says, Bounding in the comics says this is BS too. And, but he says the MCU, he calls them the MCU zombie. Because there's plenty of people that they've never read a single Marvel comic, so they know very, very little about it. But the Marvel brand, the MCU movie brand, the Marvel Comics brand is dead, but the MCU brand is strong, and people go to it for the adventure and whatnot. And so far, so good, but. Again, the core audience, how long do they sit there and suddenly notice they're being insulted? How long will that work? I don't know. It crashed and burned pretty quick for Star Wars, which was the biggest thing. And then now Marvel is clearly the biggest thing. So we'll see how that goes. So bringing home to this idea that, they're true to the characters and everything, the Eternals. You're not going to get the Eternals. These are not the Eternals. Well, the notion of switching up the gender, sexualities, and ethnicities of the characters from the comics was baked in initially. Now, this is Kevin Feige talking, which kind of destroys everything Alonso was trying to claim. Maybe they should talk. And that was part of what Nate Moore was really advocating for and moving Eternals to the top of the list for us to start working on. Yeah. Sure. So Feige is saying that many mainly chose Eternals because it's woke, where they change existing characters and don't create new ones, not because it's such a great story. I think they were looking at Eternals as more of a blank slate because even in the comic book community, a lot of people don't know much about them. And not a lot of people read the Eternals. It didn't catch on as much as other Marvel Comics entities. But they played very pivotal roles within the overall narrative and the Celestials and everything, and they could have done a lot more to set that up, but the Celestials are just tossed around as Easter eggs within the movies and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then, of course, the sequel, one is the father of Star-Lord and all that, but they still really don't delve into it enough to give groundwork for something like this, which they could have done, but in the end, that's not Ajax. That's not Mockery. As for Phastos, is that Phastos? Oh, there he is. Phastos being gay. I'll give him that one because I don't recall any romantic interest for the character, so it's kind of up in the air. So you could sort of, shoehorn that in there. So, yeah, but this isn't. No, that's not the Eternal. And that's the thing. I saw someone trying to, hey, look, we're getting too tribal. Give the movie a chance. And I'm really excited for the Eternals. I'd like to see that because I like the comics. You're not going to get the Eternals. Did you like Taskmaster? Sorry, you're not going to get him. All right? And even that's a missed opportunity because, the magic potion wakes up Taskmaster so that she doesn't hate Black Widow, even though the reason she is the Taskmaster is because of Black Widow. And it would have been kind of cool had they set that up. Of course, you can't really do it because Black Widow's dead. But still, it's like when she does the magic potion on her and she says, look, you idiot, I wasn't mind controlled by my dad. I hate you because of what you did to me. I don't care. My dad's an asshole. But no, it's, once the patriarchal magic potion spell is broken, then, women see the truth and realize that they all love each other. And, they're going to stick it to the male gaze, which kind of failed on that part with quite a lot of lovely scenes of Scarlet. Although Florence Pugh's costume looked a little less tight. So maybe that's the direction they're going. But anyway, the article goes in about it's all this superficial nonsense that they throw on there and pat themselves on the back at the expense of plot and character development and absolute disrespect of the original characters. And they're just tossed around. So it says, we got to change the genders and stuff so that we can superficially say we're really, championing great causes and whatnot, and ultimately end up insulting that and the source material. Yeah. So if you really like the Eternals, sorry, you're not going to get them. Just like you didn't get Taskmaster in Black Widow. But I'm betting Black Widow is a better movie than the Eternals will be. So I guess there's that. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on radiomisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.